Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm James Jacobson in Maui, Hawaii.
And I'm Claire Mansell in London, England. I forgot where I was. It's been a while, Jim.
It has been a while. I was away for a couple of weeks, but it is 2023. And the reason we do this live show, which you may be watching on tape, on digital tape, is because we want to let you know about all the great things that are happening at Dog Podcast Network, because we are constantly working on amazing new episodes to listen to and to watch. Some of them are on YouTube. And we want to make sure that you know about them in all the ways that you possibly can. So what have we got this week to share with the folks, Claire?
Well, we have on Dog Edition this week a show which is all about weird dog anatomy. And now I know it's all about the audio for our podcast, but can I give a little shout out to Raf, who's our graphic designer, because I think he did an amazing job on the cover art for this, particularly this episode. He does an amazing job anyway, but this one was really, really good. So weird dog anatomy. It's all about the things that dogs have that we don't have, or that are a little bit quirky. I mean, obviously they have a tail. We don't have one of those, but no, it's things like on the wrist, on the dog's wrist, they've got the extra claws higher up. Yeah. And it's like, what's that for? Is it just sort of something that's left over from evolution, or does it actually have a purpose?
And so we unwind all that because we know those weird things on a dog's, including, like the name of this thing is, why are dogs' noses wet? Hopefully that got you to click.
Yeah.
We actually answer those questions. There are some really interesting things like they'll do claws and tails and anal glands. We have fun with anal glands, and our sound engineer is good. He shrunk us down so that we go through the body, and it's a really fun episode. And so we mentioned our graphics design. We have a whole team of people to make these shows really, really good. So if you haven't heard one, this is a really good episode to check out. It's on Dog Edition, which is the flagship show for Dog Podcast Network. And check it out. And you can find that at dogedition.com, or any of our shows. You can find all of them at shows.dogpodcastnetwork.com.
And the long leash this week, you are talking to Nancy Gordon. The title of the show is I Miss You Already, all about anticipatory grief, which, as dog lovers, is something that we always have to face up to, because dogs live less time than we do. And so this horrible reality of the fact that we will lose not just one of them during our lifetime, but many of them, a series of them. So it's all about, if you've ever loved a dog, you've probably grieved for the loss of one too, and you're not alone. And how do you sort of navigate all of that? I have to say, one of the things I liked when I was listening to this episode was that Nancy uses the phrase lift up rather than put down a dog, at the end of their life. And yeah, I thought that was a lovely image that
for those of us, pretty much everyone who is a dog lover has at one point had to help lift up a dog.
Yeah.
And just that, it was really interesting. And what Nancy does is she really looks and builds upon the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, The Stages of Grief. And this anticipatory grief component is really a big thing. And if you have a dog that is sick, or are you contemplating that, someday you're going to have to help lift up a dog, this is a really important episode. Or if you know someone who recently lost a dog, tell them to listen to this conversation. And that's on The Long Leash. You can find that at longleashshow.com, or you got it at shows.dogpodcastnetwork.com.
And Dog Cancer Answers this week is all about anesthesia, which is a sort of a bit of a mystical thing to us. I mean, it's something that obviously humans, we go through as well, and our dogs go through, and it can be quite a nerve-wracking time. I think I'm sort of much more aware of how some people I know, their dogs haven't made it through anesthesia. And of course, this is a risk with humans as well, but we're not so nervous of it. We feel like, I don't know, we feel we have less control when it's our dog, don't we? And so this episode is all about how the veterinary team keeps your dog safe under anesthesia, and does touch a little on what can go wrong when they're under, and how you can prepare your dog beforehand if they're going to be having an operation. So it's a really useful episode if you're feeling nervous about your dog being put under for an operation. Then have a listen to this and you can understand a little bit more about what the process is.
And what's interesting is the voice that you hear on that is Tasha McNerney. She is not a veterinarian, but she is one of these actually kind of rare birds. She's a certified vet tech who focuses on anesthesia. And there are many, what do you call it in the UK? You don't call it vet hospitals. You call it
I don't know.
Surgeries, vet surgeries, right?
Well, just vets. We just call them vets. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
I've heard anyway. Vet surgery. There are many places that you take your dog to have some surgery, and they have anesthesia. Where the veterinarian is certainly the one performing the surgery, but there are other attending people who are monitoring the equipment. So, what kind of training do they have? What goes into the head? What are the things you can do, as you say, ahead of time to make sure that your dog has the best shot of not having some complications as a result of the surgery? Questions to ask. That's on Dog Cancer Answers, and you can find that. You're getting the whole kink of this thing, the whole thing at dogcanceranswers.com or at shows.dogpodcastnetwork.com.
Now, we're going to do something different this week, aren't we? We're going to do our hound headlines. So talking... that's uncanny, Jim. Although, of course, if it was a hound, it would be much more like, oh, yeah, exactly. I think that's maybe what all we need to put out is every Thursday just us making dog noises.
This is dog noises. Get your canine friends. Have them put on the headphones.
Yeah, exactly. So, a couple of stories for you, and I couldn't not mention a story which has been really big in the news this week in the UK. It's not a happy story, but it is something that everybody's talking about at the moment, which is a dog walker who very sadly was mauled to death by dogs last week in a park in the UK. And she was a 28-year-old woman. And obviously we don't at this stage know the full details. There's been a limited amount released about this. We know that 8 dogs were sort of taken away from the scene. We don't know if she was walking 8, but she was obviously walking a number of dogs. None of the dogs were banned breeds, because that is usually something that in the UK people immediately leap on that if there's been an incident, but none of them were. And we don't know if the dog that started this was hers or if it was a dog that came from somewhere else or whatever. But there are a huge number of questions being raised now about how many dogs should dog walkers be allowed to walk? Do we need legalities and licenses and all this kind of stuff? So that is sort of swirling around in the mists at the moment in the UK, and it's a very, very hot topic.
And this is fascinating because when you mentioned it, I had not heard about it, and that's kind of what's interesting. And I'm sure the tabloids are picking it up in tabloid fashion in the UK. But here in America, I haven't seen much about it. And believe me, I have programmed my alerts to everything dog. So it's really interesting. We at Dog Podcast Network try to expand across the globe. We have a team of journalists and storytellers all over the world looking for really interesting stories. And so you will keep us updated on this, Claire, and maybe it will turn into one of our an episode that we get to explore a little more deeply, because some of those questions are big, like how many dogs are too many dogs, and what kind of training is required to be a dog walker, and how do they protect the general public. So.
And should the numbers be different if you're walking big dogs or small dogs? It's very tricky. So to finish on a really positive note, the biggest story in the UK by far, and I think across Europe as well, because I've seen it featured in several news feeds in different European countries, is Sophie from Romania. Now, I'm almost hoping this has reached the US. Please tell me it's reached. No.
I was away, but I missed both of these stories. What is Sophia from Romania?
This is a wonderful story. So it is a former BBC journalist by the name of Rory Cellan-Jones, who he is an author now as well. And I do think that this story will probably turn into another book. I think this is probably his second book. He's probably signed up for it already. he and his wife adopted a dog just before Christmas from Romania. And he tweeted a picture of the dog arriving in the middle of the night and him standing on the doorstep holding this dog in his arms, who looked terrified.
Yeah.
And I followed from that very first tweet, and we have watched the progress of this dog over a period now of more than a month. When it first arrived, it just hid behind the sofa or the whole time, consistently hid behind the sofa, and they tried to coax it out with food and everything else. And there has been this very, very slow but amazing progress. And in the last week or so, his wife has been able to stroke the dog. The dog has gone out into their garden, even a little bit of counter surfing because it's worked out that the food's coming from the kitchen. And, tail is up now, not down between the legs. It is the feel good story of the season in the UK. And so Sophie from Romania, if you follow that hashtag on Twitter, but as I say, it's been on the breakfast news, it's been in all the newspapers and everything. And I think this is probably going to turn into a book or a film.
Huh. I had not heard of Sophia from Romania, but I can tell you about Chloe from Kihei. Chloe from Maui. So we have a very similar story. So Chloe from Maui is a dog that I know very well because we are fostering this. And Chloe has an interesting past herself. She she lived with a neighbor who was 3 doors down from us, a lady in her 80s who passed away in November. And then the dog got transferred around to a variety of different places that my wife and I thought, well, we could probably do better and we could help foster and rehome this dog. So we have taken Chloe in, and she is a lot like Sophie. She was a lot of anxiety and a tail that was just down and kind of a bit of a bitey and aggressiveness and also at the same time hiding. And I will say that the transformation has been extraordinary, pretty amazing. So I know that friends and colleagues have been saying this is going to be a foster fail. And I've been like, no. Well, I can say that I'm still considering that she's a foster, but she is so diplomatic and trying to get me to really appreciate all of her charms. And she does. And we're doing little card we're doing everything, every trick in the book, everything I know to help rehabilitate this dog. The diet has made an enormous difference. And that tail is just totally up and just very happy. I went away for 9 days to Honolulu, and it was told to me that the tail went down, and I am back, and now the tail's back up. So it's interesting. So maybe Sophie from Romania and Chloe from Maui will make a good book or a story about the fact that you can rehabilitate a dog. Because I think there's so many times that we think that, well, that's kind of hopeless, but there's always an opportunity to take care of a dog that is special needs, going through all sorts of struggles emotionally, and rehabilitate them. And I feel kind of good to do that firsthand with Chloe.
Well, it's funny you should say about behavior changes when you went away, because my husband is away now for 6 months. And it doesn't really matter that he's gone away, because actually I'm the number one human in the house, let's face it. So that's because I run with Maple, you see. So Maple, the world revolves around me because I run with her. So, if I had gone away, this would have been a big deal. But my husband's gone away. She's like, there's one less person in the house, but, it's not that big a problem. But what's fascinating is in the week that he has been gone, she has become a lap dog. Now, I always wanted her to be a lap dog. I wanted to actually sit in the evenings with me and on me. But she was always wanting a ball thrown for her, which is really irritating when you're watching TV. Really irritating. But she seems, she seems to have relaxed from that, and she's more interested in making sure she's with me and that I'm not going anywhere, which is great by me.
Yeah. They learn, they adapt, and it's really about love. And that's kind of what Dog Podcast Network is really about. I want to thank Danielle DeMatteo, who is out there in LinkedIn land, who's excited about our upcoming podcast and likes the fact that we cover sensitive topics, because we do cover sensitive topics and fun ones. But it's that love that really connects all of us dog lovers, which are our audience. So I hope you will check out the shows on Dog Podcast Network, and I hope you will get in touch with us through any of the social media channels and let us know what you'd like to hear more of or less of, because your feedback matters. We are in a period of introspection where we want to make sure that we serve you as well as we possibly can by giving you the type of content that you're interested in. So please let us know, because we do care, we do listen. We have a Basset Hound with big ears who is just waiting to hear what you see. There's the hound headlines, who's just waiting to hear what your thoughts are about how we can improve. So please let us know, because we really, really do care. And we'll be back again next week about this very same time, where we'll tell you what's out on Dog Podcast Network.
Okay. See you then.
See you then. Take care. Aloha.